It was Memorial Day, a holiday meant for cookouts, family gatherings, and a rare day off from the routines of ordinary life. Across Texas, people were firing up grills, watching parades, and calling old friends. But for one man in northeast Harris County, the night of May 25, 2026, would not end with fireworks or laughter. It would end with gunshots. And a community would wake up the next morning to learn that one of the most beloved teachers and coaches in all of Southeast Texas was gone. Marlon Sanders was not just a man doing a job. He was the kind of person who made you feel like you mattered the second you walked into a room. His students called him the hype guy. His colleagues called him family. His community called him a light. And in a matter of seconds, that light was extinguished on a quiet residential street in Harris County, allegedly by a man who should never have pulled a trigger. This is the story of Marlon Sanders, a story about a good man, a complicated situation, and a violent end that no one should have seen coming. A story about what it looks like when a community loses someone truly irreplaceable, and what it looks like when the justice system is asked to answer for that loss. If you enjoy respectful and well-researched true crime stories, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an investigation. Marlon Sanders, SR, was 36 years old. He had spent more than 7 years pouring himself into the Port Arthur Independent School District in Southeast Texas. By day, he stood in front of classrooms at Lucien Adams Elementary School, teaching music to young children who lit up when he walked through the door. He directed the school choir, ran rehearsals with patience and energy, and turned music into something his students genuinely looked forward to. After school and on weekends, he transformed into Coach Sanders, working on the sidelines of football fields and basketball courts at Memorial High School, coaching the Titans and investing in young athletes who needed someone to believe in them. But his talent did not stop at the school gates. Marlon was also a singer, a DJ, and a musician who performed throughout the Southeast Texas region. People in Port Arthur knew his name not just as an educator, but as a performer, someone who brought life to rooms and made the people inside them feel something real. That combination of gifts made him rare. Not just a teacher, not just a coach, but a whole person who showed up completely wherever he was needed.
I love you, yeah. Come on, man. No matter what you do. Come on now. Come on. I hope you understand me.
Hey, go DJ! That's my DJ. Go DJ! Yeah, Marlon. You almost there, boy.
His principal at Lucien Adams Elementary, Dr. Shylanda Filer, remembered meeting Marlon for the first time during teacher orientation. She said he made an immediate impression. She recalled that he actually cared. It was a genuine care, she said, not something performed for an audience or turned on for an evaluation. It was real, and she felt it from the very first day. Over the years, she stopped thinking of him as just a colleague. He became family. She recalled that he even told her husband he was going to take care of her. That was the kind of commitment he made to the people in his life.
I was like, hey, so he told my husband he was going to take care of me. He actually cared. It was a genuine care that he had for people and children. He cared about if he met you, if you had any part dealings with him, he had a heart.
The students at Adams Elementary echoed that feeling in every tribute shared after his death. He was described as a big teddy bear by those who worked alongside him, a man with a huge heart for education, someone who did not simply teach children how to read music or clap rhythms. He taught them that they were worth investing in, that their voices mattered, that showing up and trying hard was something to be proud of. In the hours after news of his death broke, teachers and staff gathered at Lucien Adams Elementary to share stories and memories. They played music, they cried, they talked about the man who had made their school feel like a home and their work feel like a calling. Marlon Sanders had built something rare in his community, and that made what happened next all the more devastating. To understand the events of Memorial Day night, you have to go back about 3 years. Marlon and his wife had gone through a period of separation. Marriages sometimes hit walls, and theirs was no exception. During that separation, his wife entered into a relationship with another man, a 38-year-old named Gary Davies. That relationship produced a child, a baby who was about 9 months old by the time May 2026 arrived. Marlon and his wife had since reconciled. They were back together, working on rebuilding what they had. But the situation with Gary Davies remained complicated, as these situations almost always do. The baby was Davies's biological child. The child needed to see its father, and that meant there would be exchanges, regular handoffs, and moments where two very different worlds had to come together briefly and then separate again without incident. On the night of May 25th, Marlon's wife had allowed the infant to spend a couple of days with Gary Davies at his home. It was a routine arrangement, the kind that thousands of co-parenting families navigate every single week across the country. When the time came to pick the baby up, Marlon went with his wife. There was nothing unusual about that. He was her husband. He was there for support, the way husbands are. What none of them could have fully anticipated, or perhaps what one of them had already decided, was that this pickup would not go smoothly. Something in the hours leading up to that moment had already set the stage for violence. Exactly what was said or done in the final minutes before the shooting remains part of the ongoing investigation. But what happened next would shock an entire community and leave a family without a husband, a father, and a friend. The shooting happened shortly after midnight on May 26, 2026, in the 12,700 block of Blue Timbers Court, a residential street near Tidwell and C.E. King Parkway in northeast Harris County. It was quiet out. It was late. Most of the neighborhood was likely asleep. Marlon Sanders and his wife arrived to pick up the infant. According to Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez, what happened next was swift and brutal. Gary Davies allegedly rushed out of the home and shot Marlon Sanders as he stood by his vehicle in the roadway. Marlon was not inside the house. He was not in some kind of confrontation in a hallway or a living room. He was outside, standing near his car in the street, and that is where the bullet found him. No one else was injured. The infant was unharmed, but Marlon Sanders collapsed in that street, and Precinct 3 deputies who responded to the scene found him gravely wounded.
I was just upstairs watching TV, and all I hear was a woman screaming, saying, "Gary, give me my baby, Gary, give me my baby." And then, of course, I'm still hearing it, and that's when I heard 2 gunshots. And right after that, that's when the woman was screaming, "You shot my husband, you shot my husband." I look out there, she doing CPR.
He was loaded into an ambulance and rushed to a nearby hospital. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Marlon Sanders did not survive. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. A music teacher, a coach, a husband, a father, a musician, and a mentor was gone, all before the sun rose on Memorial Day morning. The response from law enforcement was immediate and thorough. Harris County Sheriff's Office dispatched not only Precinct 3 deputies, but also crime scene investigators, homicide detectives, the Violent Criminals Apprehension Team known as VCAT, K-9 units, and air support. The scene at Blue Timbers Court became a full-scale investigation within hours. Detectives began piecing together the sequence of events leading up to and including the shooting. Witness statements were gathered from everyone at or near the scene.
It sounded like firecrackers, but super, super loud. They sounded so close. It kind of had my ear ringing a bit. That's what it sounded like. It was just 2 shots.
It's tragic, it is, because of the situation that happened. But we knew that gentleman there that lived there to have a lot of anger issues.
Physical evidence was collected and processed by crime scene investigators. The circumstances surrounding the shooting were not mysterious in the way some cases are. There was no unknown suspect. There was no stranger who vanished into the night. The alleged shooter was known. He was the father of the child being picked up that night. According to the Harris County Sheriff's Office, Gary Davies, 38, was identified as the suspect. Based on the investigation, detectives believed Davies had rushed from the home and fired at Marlon as he stood near his vehicle. The motive, as investigators reconstructed it, appeared to be rooted in the deeply complicated personal history between Davies, his former partner, and her husband. Investigators noted that the relationship between Davies and Marlon's wife had ended, that the woman had returned to her husband, and that the presence of the infant created an ongoing, unavoidable connection between Davies and the family. Whether Davies had expressed hostility toward Marlon before that night, whether there had been arguments or threats in the weeks leading up to Memorial Day, these are details that investigators and prosecutors will work to establish as the case moves forward. What drove Davies to the point of pulling a trigger during what should have been a routine child pickup remains a question the courts will have to fully examine. But the evidence gathered at the scene, combined with witness accounts and the account provided by Marlon's wife, pointed clearly toward one man. The arrest came relatively quickly. Gary Davies was taken into custody and booked into the Harris County Jail. He was charged with murder in the shooting death of Marlon Sanders. As of the days immediately following the arrest, no bond had been set. Davies remained behind bars as prosecutors and defense attorneys began preparing their respective cases for the court proceedings ahead. The charge of murder in Texas carries severe consequences. Under Texas law, murder is a first-degree felony, punishable by anywhere from 5 years to 99 years or life in prison. The specifics of Davies's case, including any potential defenses or mitigating factors he might raise, will be argued before a judge and jury. But the community watching from the outside was not yet focused on legal strategy. They were grieving. The news hit Port Arthur like a wave. Social media filled with tributes almost the moment word spread. Former students, parents, colleagues, and neighbors shared memories of Coach Sanders, of Mr. Sanders, of the man who had shown up for their children year after year with energy and love that never seemed to run dry. People who had graduated years earlier still remembered specific moments with him, specific things he said that stuck.
Hey, what's good, Port Arthur? Walking out the library right now. I just voted. Make sure you get out and vote. Your voice matter. Your vote count. Brandon Poitier, Precinct 2, Justice of the Peace.
Doing how with Dad? You scared? You scared?
No.
Alright, don't be scared. I'm trying to see. You want them balls again? I don't know how they did that. Did she just roll it up into a ball? Is that what she did? Something like that. Little mama. Or did she? Let's see. Do it like this. Boom. I don't know. Lord help me. Because if it's how I feel to bring it together like this. No, let's see. Yo.
Look at this one.
That Jimmy Choo.
Jimmy Choo?
Yeah.
These are not into disco.
Yeah.
But them had the same sound.
Hold on.
Port Arthur ISD released a statement that captured what so many were feeling. The district extended its deepest, and most sincere condolences to the Sanders family and all who knew, loved, worked with, were taught or coached by, and enjoyed the talents of Marlon Sanders. They called him their beloved Adams Elementary School music teacher, Titans football and basketball coach, and singer and DJ and musician. The statement said he would be missed by so many. That turned out to be an understatement. Superintendent Mark Portery and members of the district's executive team showed up at Lucian Adams Elementary the morning after the news broke. Counselors and social workers were deployed across the district to support students and staff who were struggling to process what had happened. The school where Marlon had spent 7 years became a place of mourning.
Space with a negative or angry attitude or mentality. He's always been someone that I call a big teddy bear, someone you can lean on, a confidant.
Students who had clapped along to his lessons, who had performed in his choir, who had looked up at him from the bleachers during football games, were now being told that their teacher was never coming back. For young children especially, that kind of loss is enormous, and the adults around them knew it. Grief counselors worked through the day helping kids find words for feelings they had never been asked to carry before. That weight should never have been placed on them. Marlon's family, still in the earliest and most overwhelming stages of grief, released a statement expressing gratitude for the outpouring of support while asking for privacy as they mourned. A public viewing was held at Cathedral of Faith Missionary Baptist Church on Fanet Road in Beaumont, followed immediately by funeral services. The community showed up in force to say goodbye. As the legal case against Gary Davies moves through the Harris County court system, the most consequential chapter of this story may still be ahead. Prosecutors will present their evidence. Defense attorneys will mount their arguments. A jury will ultimately decide what Gary Davis's future looks like. But for the community of Port Arthur, the verdict they are waiting for is not simply a legal outcome. It is about accountability. It is about confirming that the life of Marlon Sanders had weight and value, and meaning that cannot simply be absorbed and moved past. What makes this case particularly difficult to process is its setting. A child custody exchange is one of the most ordinary transactions in co-parenting. It happens every day in every city in the country. Parents and step-parents and partners navigate these moments with varying degrees of tension and cooperation. Most of the time, the child goes home safely and the adults go their separate ways. On Memorial Day night, that ordinary moment became the site of a murder. The legacy of Marlon Sanders is not in question. 7 years of showing up for students, 7 years of coaching young athletes who might not have had anyone else in their corner, years of performing for communities that needed music and energy and joy. These things do not disappear because a man's life was cut short. They live on in the people he shaped. They live on in the children who sang in his choir and the athletes who played harder because he believed in them. Port Arthur ISD shared videos of Marlon in action after his death, including footage from a 2025 Adams Elementary Choir performance under his direction, as well as clips from the football season that showed him cheering on his players with the kind of unbridled enthusiasm that is impossible to fake. Watching those children sing, guided by a man who was clearly doing exactly what he was meant to do, is now both a tribute and a painful reminder of what was taken on a street in Harris County in the middle of the night. Marlon Sanders, SR, should still be in a classroom right now. He should still be on a sideline calling plays and pushing young athletes to believe in themselves. He should be making music.
Assure you that you don't want to miss that part. Okay.
He should be alive. May Marlon Sanders never be forgotten, and may his family find some measure of peace, knowing that so many people are carrying his memory forward with them. What do you think justice looks like for Marlon Sanders and his family in this case? And do you believe enough attention is being given to the very real dangers that can arise during custody exchanges? If you found this story informative and important, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support helps us continue telling these stories responsibly and honoring the people who deserve to be remembered.